Nintendo are masters at making the old feel new again. I mean, let's be honest, they do a great job making Mario exciting every single generation and reinventing The Legend of Zelda to be the best it's ever been. So when it comes to remakes and remasters, I'm usually tepid at best. I'm lukewarm on the whole idea. But I think Nintendo could do it super fun. And since the rumor of Bandai Namco working on a big new remaster for Nintendo and Nintendo doing their own remakes, I have to tell you about the most exciting games that Nintendo could bring back to Switch and the ways they would be so fun once again. What's going on, everybody? It's Zach from SwitchForce. Let me know in the comments down below what classic Nintendo game or unknown, unsung gem you want to see them remake and bring back to the modern era in a fresh, fun, new way. And hit that like button if you guys enjoy the video. Let's get right into it with a big one. Off the bat, I'm just gonna hit you with a homer. Pokemon Pinball. All right, Pokemon Pinball was so good. That extra boofy cartridge on the top of your Game Boy, man, it was a chunker, but it deserved to be because it was such a fun game. And then they upgraded with Ruby and Sapphire, including more Pokemon, more boards, and still that same cool pinball, but catching the Pokemon mechanic. I think Pokemon Pinball today would be awesome. For one, there's like 1,000 Pokemon. Two, we're coming up to a new gen, and this would be a great way to introduce a lot of those new Pokemon types and make them more familiar faces. Plus, I think you could do a lot of nifty tricks with the better tech and hardware that we're benefited to have here in 2022. And this would be such a nice opportunity for Nintendo to sell a mid-priced game. I'm guessing they hate doing this because they'd rather just keep the value at 60 for everything they put out. They don't want to undermine their products, but either a free to start or a cheaper eShop Pokemon Pinball would be incredible. And I think it would be super fun for those of us that played the game back in the day and for people that haven't played yet. Pinball still has like some ethereal, everlasting appeal, and we don't get a whole lot of it except kind of like retro collections. But this would be a look forward. This would be taking pinball to a new era and innovating and doing interesting new things while still using the Pokemon IP, or, hear me out, Animal Crossing Pinball. I now think this is one of the coolest spin-offs they could do for the Animal Crossing franchise. 450 villagers, gotta catch them all? Don't lie, you know it works. After that, we gotta talk about the Mario and Luigi series. What a great series. I know Paper Mario is the preferred, and Paper Mario is moving back to the right track. Origami King was a great game, but Mario and Luigi had its own special charm. And ever since Alpha Dream died in 2019, I've missed that franchise. Some of the most fun characters you ever saw, and some of the best, most silly and innovative, creative ways to utilize the Mushroom Kingdom characters. Bowser's Inside Story was brilliant, but even the OG Superstar Saga was so good. Fall and Cackletta are classic, and bringing them back with new graphics in the Switch era would be amazing. I also think this would be a great way to introduce Wario and Waluigi to the RPG scene, give them their own suite of moves, their own special attacks, and best yet, ways to engage and interact with the environment outside of combat. That was some of my favorite stuff in Mario and Luigi RPGs. Yes, the battles were engaging, and yes, there was actual leveling up and a whole lot of real tried and true RPG mechanics, but they also had a lot of innovative ways to interact with the world and move from creative land to creative land with a very humorous story. And again, if you haven't played Bowser's Inside Story, that game is magical. I mean, they did kind of bring it back to the 3DS, but I'm talking about just a whole refresh for the series. Do Mario and Luigi again. It's just Mario and Luigi, it's the RPG, and it's new. It's more of a remake than a remaster, but you could still maintain many of the elements that made that franchise great. And now that IP is kind of just floating there, since sadly the studio that birthed it, Alpha Dream, filed for bankruptcy and is no more. But Nintendo, man, this would be such a good one to bring back. And in a year where we are missing Link more than ever, The Legend of Zelda Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons are perfect. We've seen how good they did with Link's Awakening, taking that game and making it feel so charming once again. A Game Boy game and boom, it works great as a Switch title. This would be the same type of thing because these games haven't seen the light of day for nearly a decade. They popped up on the 3DS Virtual Console back in 2013, and they've been underused ever since. If you don't know, the games actually connect, and if you play them both, you can complete them as a linear storyline instead of a parallel story and unlock different items that help you progress in the opposite adventure. Plus, the games involve manipulating the seasons and manipulating the ages, so they kind of like have a comparable mechanic, yet they're still different, and graphically, that would allow you to unlock so much. A double pack here would be sweet, although that might be too sweet for Nintendo. They definitely don't want to pack the calories in when they could charge 60 for each. And this could be an opportunity to do the Pokemon thing with Zelda, and wouldn't the business suits at Nintendo love that? 2 Zelda games at the same time with incentive to buy them both. Or if they want to be really great, they could just package them together and it would be super fan servicey and super fun. But I think between these and Minish Cap, one of those needs to come back. Those are some really great Zelda games that have really great art and really nifty characters that nobody talks about too much anymore. And in the same way that Link's Awakening rebirthed that game for a modern audience, the Switch could do the same for Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons. I feel like this one maybe has the highest likelihood of happening because Nintendo does love to tap Zelda almost every year, so it's only a matter of time. Or maybe a matter of seasons. Corny! All right, we couldn't make this video without talking about the big rumored remake, and that's Metroid Prime 1. I think this one is perfect because although we know Metroid Prime 4 is off in the distance, why not drum up some enthusiasm and some excitement with the first game first? It'll help fill people in with what this franchise is about and how Samus can spin in a 3D direction instead of 2D like in Dread. Plus, it'll give us an insight into what Retro is going to do with Metroid Prime 4. A good chance to sort of set the stage and say, hey, this is why this matters so much. It's no secret that Metroid has never been a mega seller, and even though Dread did do stupendously well, Metroid Prime 4 needs some movement. It needs some momentum, and it definitely doesn't have it from Nintendo, given how long it's been since the announcement, since the delay and the restructure, and haven't heard anything since. So I think Metroid Prime 1 would be a great way to prep the waters for Metroid Prime 4. You can take a game with an already existing structure, but doll it up with modern graphics, modern tendencies, and maybe a few flourishes and switches to make the game flow better and feel better in 2022. This one has a chance of releasing this year, so hey, we might see Nintendo's first big remake very soon, and I think Metroid Prime 1 will be a good time if it ends up happening sometime in 2022. You know who else needs to come back in 2022? Yoshi, but not for like the kids. All right, don't get me wrong, the Yoshi games are colorful and fun and there is charm, but in the same way that Kirby kind of took a step forward with Kirby and the Forgotten Land, maybe it's time to make Yoshi move more towards the hardcore once more. If you remember, Yoshi's Island was a great follow-up to Super Mario World. And even though the game is different and has a different vibe than the original Super Mario World, it still maintains a lot of the platforming challenge and interesting ideas. And I feel like today's Yoshi games are all sorts of woolly and yarny, and that's clever. They tap into a different market, but maybe they could move it in a direction just like the Pink Puff. And I really think the way you achieve that is making Mario and Co. part of the adventure again, as opposed to separating Yoshi into his own separate world. Like, I get the idea of wanting to give him his own shine, but you can do that while still borrowing some of the baby type characters that I think give more of a platforming focus than the collectathon, very difficult to die type games we've been getting lately. Plus, there's just a quirkiness and craziness to Yoshi's Island that I'd love to see Nintendo tap back into, and I think it'd be a really fun one for new players to experience for the very first time. Speaking of collectathons, BanjoKazooie has been waiting, oh my gosh, a very long time. Now, we did just get BanjoKazooie over on the N64 app on Switch Online, and that's super cool. But BanjoKazooie needs a new game. It's been so freaking long. And you might say this is more of a Microsoft joint, given a rare product, but Nintendo and Microsoft have kind of been in cahoots lately. So since it's not happening over at Microsoft, maybe Nintendo could be the pusher here. Maybe they could say, hey, let's get something going for Switch. I feel like the game would succeed far more on Switch than on Xbox Series X. Like, I know there's nostalgia there, but it just feels like a Switch game. Yooka-Laylee was a nice example of how we've missed those games, but I think they missed the mark. I feel like making a modern take on what the collectathon formula was would be the better idea. Because it's only fun for so long to play a game that feels like it was built back in the 90s, but there's characters from the 90s that still convert and work so well in today's day and age. And that's why a remade BanjoKazooie, just that, no subtitle, just BanjoKazooie would be awesome. And getting Kazooie and Banjo all fun and feathered out, flocked and ready to go on Switch, you know that's a good idea. And then last but not least, more of a niche title, But Golden Sun definitely deserves some shine. I mean, this game was a very great and enveloping RPG back on the Game Boy Advance, and they followed it up, but they haven't done anything with the property since. There was some rumbling about maybe bringing Isaac or someone into the Super Smash Bros. Crowded roster, but it never was in the cards. And here I think you have an opportunity to reintroduce this idea of RPG battles, cool characters, Dijin, and all sorts of interesting abilities and summons to RPG players once again. And while Square Enix is busy doing the whole HD 2D thing, Nintendo could go a different route. I'm not saying the Bravely Second route, because I think that art style is also a little suspect, but maybe they could do something more hand-drawn, or maybe they could find a way to make this one stand apart. I think there's still space for Golden Sun to come back and be a star-studded franchise. Nintendo kind of has a space for a turn-based RPG of this sort. I know Xenoblade Chronicles is dominant and very exciting and coming back again soon, but that occupies a different sort of sector in the genre, so Golden Sun, I mean, we would bask in its newfound glory. So there you go, 7 major games that could come back with awesome remakes that would be revitalized, bringing new franchises and fun, or looks at familiar characters in a whole new light. Let me know which of these you'd be most excited for. If I had to pick, man, it's probably Mario and Luigi. I have a soft spot for that franchise. I liked it through all the handheld platforms, and it's one I'd play on the go. But look, I wouldn't complain about any of these. Pokemon Pinball would be perfect, Metroid Prime would be great, and those Oracle games, ooh, I think that's a super nice combo. Let me know if you spot any others in your mind that you'd like to see, and make sure to hit that like button before you guys say goodbye. I'm gonna say goodbye to you, so stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive out there, my friends. I love you a lot, appreciate you even more. SwitchForce, out.